to struggle for my dream, cause nobody else could see it. I was no one to turn to somebody. With just a little faith, there's nothing I can achieve. Yeah, I was going the wrong way and then I turned right. But if I could be anybody, I wanna be me. Cause if I could be anybody, I wanna be me. Yeah, I just wanna be.
I'm Dylan Paddleford, and I recover loud.
Welcome to another episode of Recover Loud, presented by Recovery on the Road, a talk show dedicated to ending the stigma of substance use disorder. I'm really excited today to speak with our son Dylan, who's the older brother of Taylor, who we got to speak to a couple weeks ago. Dylan, Taylor, and our other son Seth all grew up in the home where Lori and I both suffered with substance use disorder. Today's episode is going to demonstrate the difference that one can experience a situation as compared to another. It'll demonstrate that trauma can be seen differently and experienced differently between two different people during the same event. I'm really excited to have Dylan with us today, and we're looking forward to all he has to share. Hi, Dylan, and welcome to Recover Loud.
Thank you.
Tell everybody what you're up to today and where you're at.
Like you said, I'm down in North Carolina. I am a United States Marine. I've been in for about 2.5 years. Just recently bought a house, living with my wife and our 3 little puppies.
And recently, Lori and I got to go to North Carolina and spend some time with Dylan and his new wife and their 3 puppies. And if you knew us 3 years ago, you would understand that that experience was one that really drove us in our recovery. When the kids were growing up, we had these 3 little rubber ducks. And if you remember, Dylan, we used to always talk about how we had our ducks in a row, and they were all a close-knit family. And then once the kids got older and our substance use disorder took off, our family spread apart. Dylan's freshman year, we were living in Massachusetts. After some horrible experiences, I totaled 4 vehicles in 3 months. We realized that we couldn't live the way we were living in a place where I didn't really know anybody. So we had to decide to move back to Caribou. Dylan, who had joined the football team and the basketball team, had really done well in this new high school setting. And he was given the opportunity to stay in Massachusetts when we moved back. And though it was seen as a great opportunity for Dylan, it was something that was really difficult for me, to accept leaving him behind. But Dylan, can you tell me a little bit about what high school was like, not having us there?
So initially, like you said, we all lived down there, and then when you guys made the choice to move up, I was given the chance to stay. After the rest of you had left, and I had moved in with our family down there, things just kind of went pretty smooth as far as I would go up and visit in the summer, and I would come back down. I'd have school. I'd do my sports. I'd keep my grades up. I was doing really well, and it was, I think, my sophomore year, the summer before my junior year. I just came up to visit, and a lot of the time that I was up there, I didn't really feel the same kind of welcome because it had been so long. And so after that, I kind of started distancing myself from you guys up there, not knowing anything about the substance abuse. And so my junior and senior year was pretty much very isolated from you guys up north. And I think I did that mostly just to try to protect myself, because I didn't know what was going on with you guys. I didn't know really anything. And it went well for me, at least. I found my own hobbies. I did my own thing. I started working out. I had jobs. I had a car. Um, and then my senior year was actually when I found out about the substance abuse. And I think that was the biggest shock for me because I had no idea the entire 4 years that I had been living in Massachusetts that was going on.
So Dylan, I want to back up. Obviously today we've told you that, the substance abuse didn't start during those 4 years. We just kept it from you all that time. But can you go back and, what was your childhood like? What was it that you were doing, and, how did you feel? Did you notice something was wrong, or, what was it like for you?
Looking back at like my childhood and stuff, it wasn't negative. To me, it was, we would go on trips. I played my sports. I did all that. I had what pretty much any kid could ask for, is like just having that freedom to kind of explore and adventure. And I think it was when we were living out on the Brissett Road is where like I think I had that the most freedom, because I would ride my bike in town, and I was 9-10 years old. I'd ride my bike. I would go pretty much anywhere, and I could explore anywhere, and it felt like the world was in like the palm of my hands. And I would go out to the farm with you. I would go like shopping with mom. It wasn't a negative experience. I mean, the only thing that I ever did notice was that you guys would leave and you'd be gone for a couple of hours, then you'd come back and you'd be there.
When we were there, did you feel like, did you feel loved? Did you feel supported?
I mean, there were times, obviously, like if I was being dumb, I mean, I'd get yelled at or I'd get punished. But I guess as far as like being loved by my parents, like, yeah, I definitely felt that. I definitely felt like you guys didn't. I thought you guys just didn't have well-paying jobs, so that's why you couldn't always give everything to us, which was fine by me. I understood it. I accepted it. And I just felt like you guys were doing everything you could for us with the money that you did have. And I definitely felt loved by both of you. You guys both taught me very important lessons in life. And
when we started raising you guys, you had a very different upbringing than what I had growing up. My parents didn't tell me that they loved me on a regular basis. We didn't do a lot as a family. There wasn't much. I was in band early on, and my mother would go to the concerts, but my father never attended. When I was on the wrestling team in high school, neither of them ever went to one meet. Not that they weren't interested, but it was just different. We raised you that, every time we left the house, it was bye, I love you, and we wanted you to feel that love. So I'm glad to hear you say that you felt the love. And you noticed the times we were gone, but that wasn't your focus. You remember all the good times, you remember the positive things. And, I think that's what's helped shape you today. Early on, having that support and that love. And, even though, I know we didn't hide it from you very well, but you didn't understand it then. Was there ever a time that you had, found out or figured out that something was up?
the most that like I think I was telling you while you were down here, that I ever really noticed that there might have been something a little bit suspicious was I was looking for something in your room and I found the drawer full of like pills. And I mean, I remember like I knew you guys smoked, but it wasn't a big deal. You guys were still around. I never really suspected anything about when you guys were gone because it gave me time to just kind of do my own thing. That's kind of how a lot of my like younger years were. I just did my own thing. And when you'd get home, we'd do something together. We'd either play catch in the yard, we'd build a fire, we'd go up to the garden or something like that. It was never like you guys just, if you were home and like it was never that you guys would come home and just never be there for us, because you always were. And yeah, I mean, I never really suspected anything major, because I knew that you did have that injury to your back, and I thought that the like all the pill bottles were your medicine. So I mean, it was suspicious that there were so many, but I just figured they were yours.
And, you know, for a while it was. I mean, those were my prescriptions. You know, I had found a doctor that would prescribe large amounts of opiates. And, you know, I took advantage of that. You know, I didn't need the high doses of meds that he was giving me, but I knew that if I asked for it, I would get it. You know, and that was just, you know, as the, you know, addiction progressed, you know, more and more became the norm. And, you know, eventually, you know, that wasn't possible anymore. You know, when the doctor cut me off and it left me to search on the streets for things, you know, that's when it went from having all this extra money to go on family trips. You know, we went whale watching, we went to Fun Town, Splash Town several times. You know, we did all those things. And I felt like I was giving you guys what, you know, what I missed out on, because I grew up poor, you know, and I grew up with a family that didn't do things together. So I made sure to do that. But, you know, the problem is I was doing that, you know, with illegal money, you know. My first addiction was money, you know, and the lifestyle and the power that I had from having something that people wanted, you know. And eventually, you know, having to switch doctors, and they wanted to test me over and over again, you know, led me to using so that I would pass the test. And it didn't take long once I started taking those high doses that I was on to get addicted. And so it went from having all that extra money and being able to do all those great things to spending every last dollar I had, and then going to work every day to work my butt off so I had something for that night. And then every day we'd wake up broke and sick, you know. So it was that perpetual cycle. I worked to get high, and I got high to work, you know. So thankfully I was able to break that cycle, you know. But so as you were getting older, you know, and you had that opportunity to stay in Massachusetts, when the communication broke down, did you remember or feel that, you know, it might be hurting me to not talk to you, or did you think that we'd forgotten about you and, you know, kind of gave up on you? What was that like?
Like, once the communication broke down, and it would be like a month to 2 months before I'd hear anything, I kind of just figured, I was like, they're doing their thing, I'm doing my thing. And then after another like couple months of that happening, I'd be like, oh, well, I guess they just don't care. And then I'd just kind of go about my business. I'd do my own thing. And if you texted, I'd respond, have maybe a 25, 30-minute conversation, call you on the holidays. That's about it. And to me, I guess it was just kind of, at that point, I was living my life. I wasn't going to sit there and worry about you guys. I wasn't going to sit there and worry about what you were up to, because it didn't change or affect me. It's not that I didn't care, but I didn't need the distraction while I was trying to focus on myself and do my own type of growth, because I didn't have like my parents there to teach me.
So did you feel alone in everything you were doing, because we weren't there, even though you had family around you?
Like, our family down there, they helped me out as much as they could, but ultimately they did tell me, like, hey, you're gonna need to, you need to learn how to do this stuff. You need to do this. You need to do this. And I was fine with it, because luckily you had taught me a pretty good work ethic early on. And so as soon as I got my car, I started working I was working on the weekends while everyone else was out, like having fun, partying. I was picking up extra shifts during the week. I was doing everything that I could so I could pay off my insurance and get new tires for my car and do these other things. And then tax season came around and I had to teach myself how to do taxes. I had to do everything alone. I mean, I could ask for the help, but I didn't want to. At that point, I wanted to be alone. I wanted to learn it on my own because I didn't have you guys there. It felt wrong learning things that I should learn from you, from somebody else.
You know, honestly, there were times in that period, you know, when I was unhealthy, you know, that I even got to the point where I resented, you know, my family that was raising you. You know, they were taking care of you. They were giving you these opportunities. They were doing all the things I should have been doing. And I got to a point where I resented that. You know, I didn't want to hear about what you were doing from them through Facebook posts. You know, I wasn't getting that contact with you. And, you know, a lot of it was my fault, obviously, you know, because in the moment, even when I thought about you, I still was thinking about, you know, where's the next high coming from? I had to focus on either going to work to make some money or, you know, finding some scheme, you know, borrowing money from this person and that person and, you know, promising everything. Or, you know, in the end, I was selling everything that I owned. When we were living in Mass, your mother and I, you know, we had our own business. We built a collection of tools and some equipment. And as soon as we got home, you know, all that stuff started being parted out, you know. So everything that we had worked for and built up, you know, just got let go. And it wasn't, you know, the $400 hedge trimmer didn't get sold for $400. Chances are, I don't remember exactly, but chances are I sold it for 40, you know, because whatever I could get so that I could just get high, you know. And, you know, I miss a lot of those things, those physical things that I had worked so hard for. But in the end, they really didn't mean anything to me, and I gave it away. And, you know, for me, it's difficult to even consider the fact that you might feel like one of those things that I gave away. You know, that was never my intention when we left you in Massachusetts. And in the end, I know that it felt that way. But just know today, that was never my intention. And I deeply missed that connection to you. When you were growing up, I felt we were close. You know, playing pass in the living room with the football when you were 2, teaching you how to ride a bike at age 2. You know, all those things. And, you know, and I remember it early on when you knew nothing about, you know, you looked up to me, you wanted to be like me. And then later on, as you mentioned, you came up in October of 2018 after some ugly things happened at home. And
was it 2018?
Yes. Yeah, it was your birthday in 2018. You came up, and I had been arrested, and you wanted to know what was going on. And I remember you showed up. It was like 3 a.m, and instead of going to bed, we sat and talked until about 7:30. And I was honest with you. You know, at that point, I wanted you to understand what it was I was going through so that you knew it wasn't, you know, just that I didn't care about you, you know. Do you remember that conversation? Do you remember? So what did it mean to you in that moment to have that conversation and learn, you know, the truths that I was telling you that day?
When I had gotten to Grampy's house, I went in, I said hello to him, and he said, "Hey, your dad's upstairs, he's waiting." Okay. And I had just left your guys' house. I had seen mom, and she had to go to bed. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to dad. And I remember I walked in the room and I saw you. I was honestly disgusted by how skinny you were and how your skin was hanging down off your face. And I couldn't believe that that was my dad. And when I had asked you like what happened, you were honest with me. And I could tell you were honest because you cried. And I think if I think back to it, I think I've maybe seen you cry 3 times, like growing up. And it was it was it was a pretty big deal for me to like see that and hear everything you had to say, because I didn't have to fight you. I didn't have to ask you over and over again. You could tell me the truth. I said what happened, and you told me everything. And I think that's a big reason why it didn't take me as long to just forgive that aspect of things, like with you, was because immediately with me you were honest.
Yeah, and honestly, I felt at that time, I mean, I couldn't hide it anymore. I couldn't live with the fact or with the idea that you thought that we didn't care about you, that we had forgotten about you, that we had abandoned you. Because when we first went into that scenario, I went to you and had that talk, and I asked you, please don't resent us later for this decision. And I kind of knew at that point what was going to happen. I kind of knew that I wasn't going to be able to afford to come down and see you. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to send you birthday money or Christmas money. I kind of knew that the life that I was living wasn't going to allow that. And, but I saw it as a great opportunity for you to get out of the chaos and have a good jump start on your life. When I went off into the Army when I was 17, I remember I was at the airport ready to fly out, and my parents had taken me to the airport that morning. And just before I walked away, my father shook my hand and said, "I'm not going to tell you to make me proud because you always have." And I'll never forget that moment, because that moment was the first time I'd ever heard my father say that. And honestly, I don't know, or I didn't understand how important it was to hear that from my father until I actually heard it. And then the story. I went into the basic training. I got injured and sent home before graduation. And because that was such a big thing to me in that moment, I felt I let him down when I got discharged. And it was, it was a pain for me. It hurt that the one time I heard it from my father was something that I couldn't complete and finish. So I know over the years I've told you that I love you and that I'm proud of you. And I want to repeat that. I'm proud of the man you are today. In spite of the upbringing that I gave you. And I appreciate that you do remember the good times. Because honestly, I know that my upbringing made me the person I am today. And, I'm seeing the man you are today, and I'm proud of the man you made yourself. And also I want to make sure to tell you that you don't have to be alone anymore. I appreciated the phone call in November before Thanksgiving. And, now that you're allowing us in your life again, because you needed that time to heal, I want to be present for all of your milestones and be a part of that. So, I appreciate you coming to that point. Dylan, I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to have this conversation with us. We did do this once before, had some technical difficulties. So this isn't the first conversation we've had, and it won't be the last. And I'm grateful for that. Your mother and I today are willing and open to have these conversations with you, and we're willing to be there. So if there's ever anything that crosses your mind, you can ask. And I just hope for the continued healing for our family in the future, because you being where you're at, your sister where she's at, and your brother on the path he's on, these were dreams that, I thought that I was going to prevent you guys from having, because, people follow in their parents' footsteps, you repeat what you learn, and I was really concerned for every one of you what it was I was teaching,
I feel like just finding something to do, finding a hobby that's healthy is a really good way to cope and to deal with the issues that you've been through.
Thanks for watching this episode of Recover Loud. If you or someone you loved are suffering with substance use disorder, please reach out. You don't have to do this alone. There are people who care about you, even if you haven't talked to them in some time. Recovery gave me hope for reunification of my family, and the gifts of my recovery are coming through every day. And if I want it bad enough, and if I work towards it, and I stay on my journey, I know I can achieve anything. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch Recover Loud on YouTube, as well as on PMC Channel 5 in the Greater Portland area. Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. Have a good night. Recover Loud, everybody.
Like snort.
So every time I call, you pick up the phone and always reminding me that I'm not alone. And even when I'm scared and my feet are frozen, you help me keep it going like a semicolon. Every time I fall, you just pick me up. Say you was down to ride through the thickest mud. And you was helping me light the way. And even in the dark, you always keeping me safe. And everything I've lost don't compare to what I've gained. So no matter what it costs, yeah, I'll be willing to pay. Cause every time I call, you pick up the phone and always reminding me that I'm not alone. And even when I'm scared and my feet are frozen, you help me keep it going like a semicolon. So I'ma follow your steps for all of the way. I put my faith in you and walk on the waves. And if I stumble a bit and fall on my face, you come and save me with all of your grace. Yeah, thank God.